Today I am going to be reviewing Kiss of the Basilisk. Did I like the book? Hard to tell. For a spice book, that's what it predominantly is. Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was very entertaining. That's what I will say about this book. If you want something entertaining, something that you're gonna be like, bro, who wrote that? This is a book for you. It was also like a very good palate cleanser, in my opinion, and it opened the door for me to be able to read other things after it, because I was like, alright, I'm feeling refreshed. The thing that's interesting about this book in particular is that normally very smutty books are very dark. This book I wouldn't say is dark so much as it just freaks out. And I've read a lot of books in my day. I'm looking right in the camera. I have never read anything this freaky. And that is saying something. This is not going to be spoiler free. I'm going to try not to reveal too many things, but I'm talking about the book, so there's going to be some things in here. If you want just a sample of what I mean when it's freaky, out of his what words I can say, out of the stuff out of his body, he made a claw that was to be inserted in the FMC's, it pulsed when he thought about her. It was made from his I can't. Never have I ever read something like that in my life. Oh, okay. Spice aside, the world building left me confused. In this book, there is a prince, and the whole point of the book is that the FMC Tem is basically being trained by a 1,000-whatever-year-old basilisk to seduce the prince and get the prince to marry her. I was excited going into this book, but the world building was just so flat. There was no world building, may I put it. If the smut part of the book was removed slightly, it could have been so captivating and interesting from a plot perspective, because like I said, basilisks have to train women to seduce the prince. That's interesting to me. For example, of plot building that left me confused. There's obviously the castle, the kingdom, and Tem's always talking about her village, her village, her village. To me, she was always like, my village is so small. The book never truly explained that there were other villages besides just Tem's. So it sounded like there was just a small village that the king ruled over, and I was like, then he's just the mayor, he's not a king. At the end of the book it was revealed there's more villages, but then what confused me more is that there's only 14 girls that were in the running for competition. What type of kingdom only has 14 girls born in the same year as the prince? What? That doesn't make any sense. That's not a kingdom. It's not big enough. The spice was just in there, and then we go back to the plot, and I was like, wait, what's happening? Wait, what? One of the points of this book that had me mostly upset was the fact that I did not like Caspin. And based on track records of the books I've liked and the guys I've liked, he should have been my one of my top book boyfriends. But the issue is, he just kinda sucks. He's a billion trillion years old, falling over his knees for Tem, and she's an immature, literal 20-year-old. This means what their conversation sounded like. It was Caspin saying something along the lines of a whole nothing burger, and then Tem taking something super small out of what he said, blowing it out of proportion, him being like, oh, I didn't actually say that, and then her being like, oh, so you hate me. That's exactly what every conversation they had, and then they would have sex. And then she'd be like, he's my everything. What are you talking about? On that same point, there's a line, one of the only lines I highlighted in this book. It was basically he's all consuming, he's everything, so why do I feel so empty? There it is. With Leo, her banter and her comfortability was so fun to read. Every time you read their conversations, it was so back and forth, and it was very well written, their conversations. Because I understand Tem is exploring her body and sexuality, and that is the main point of the book that I very much enjoyed, and learning sexuality and court intrigue in a way. Tem would use her body for currency against Leo. She'd be like, he hasn't earned it yet. Which, in my mind, it's like, should be able to freely give and receive enjoyment without having to be like, he has to earn it. Because like, why is your body something that has to be earned? Why are you objectifying yourself? At the same time, like free agency, she'd be like, well, why can't I have it all? Which is fine, but it would just go so at odds with each other. And I don't mean it in a sense of like her warring with herself. It seemed to me the way that this book was written, it was internally an issue with the book. She's low-key a bird. And I don't mean to like use that lightly, but she's like, I'm attracted to power. But then she'd be like, I hold the power. It was just everywhere. Another one of my issues with the book is the ending. In my opinion, this book was leading up to a throuple. The way Tem has like a human side and a basilisk side. Leo gives her something that Caspian can't. Leo gives her humanness, banter, like comfortability. Caspian gives her like an all-consuming, I don't know, they have basilisk sex, and it was really hard to read. I could not tell you what was going on in this scene. They were floating in the cosmic in some universe together. That's all I could say about that. Also, on the basilisk sex, it was never explained what basilisks looked like. This is what I mean by plot, like the plot wasn't there. It was never explained what they look like. And so whenever they were having like, you know, freaky time as basilisks, I was like, so what? So, where is what? Who is doing who? I'm confused. And I don't mean to sound like a big giant hater, because honestly, I enjoyed the book. But if you want like someone critiquing it, this is that. That's not to say you can't read the book and have a great time, because I sure did. I read this book and I had a ball. Comment down below your thoughts. I would like to hear what other people thought of this book. Hope you enjoyed my utter ranting of this.